Hey guys, have you ever wondered what lies beyond the forests, beyond the mountains, in places where no map dares to reach? Tonight, I will take you into a forgotten kingdom, where magic was once real, where love and betrayal danced together, and where a young soul discovered the power that could change the fate of an entire land forever. Long ago, before the modern world of skyscrapers and highways, there existed a land hidden far beyond the Atlantic coast, a realm shrouded in fog and mystery, known only to a handful of sailors who dared to speak its name in whispers. This kingdom was not drawn on maps, nor written in books, because Avaloria was a place that chose its visitors. The more you searched for it, the more it slipped away like smoke between your fingers. At the heart of this kingdom lived a young girl named Elara, with golden hair that shimmered like sunlight on water and eyes as blue as the clearest summer sky. She was not a princess, nor born of noble blood, but something about her made people pause, as though destiny had carved her name in the stars. Elara's village rested on the edge of the whispering forest, a woodland so ancient that even the oldest villagers could not recall a time before its trees stood tall. They said the forest was alive, breathing, thinking, guarding secrets no mortal should ever discover. Mothers warned their children never to wander too far beneath its emerald canopy, for those who entered rarely returned. But Elara, unlike other children, had always felt drawn to it. Every time the wind rustled through the leaves, she swore she could hear voices, soft, melodic whispers calling her name. On the eve of her 17th birthday, as the stars spilled silver light across the hills, Elara stood at her cottage window and saw a flicker of golden fire weaving between the trees. It was not a torch, nor lightning, but something brighter, purer, almost alive. Her heart raced as if strings of fate tugged her closer, and without telling her family, she wrapped herself in a cloak and stepped into the night. The forest welcomed her with an eerie stillness. The usual chirping of crickets and hooting of owls was gone. She followed the golden light deeper and deeper until she reached a clearing where an ancient oak stood, its trunk wide as a house, its branches reaching like arms into the heavens. At its roots lay something she could barely comprehend: a sword, glowing faintly, half buried in the earth, as though the tree itself had grown to protect it. The moment her hand hovered over the hilt, the whispers she had always heard grew louder, forming words: chosen child, awaken the dawn. Fear and wonder battled inside her. But curiosity won, and she wrapped her fingers around the hilt. Instantly, light surged through her veins, her vision blurred, and in that blinding moment, Avaloria itself seemed to awaken. Miles away, bells rang in the royal city, though no hand pulled their ropes. Rivers glowed under moonlight, and even the slumbering mountains rumbled as though they recognized the return of something ancient. But far beyond the kingdom, in the shadows of the forgotten coast, Someone else felt the sword awaken a man wrapped in dark robes, his eyes like burning coals, who had waited centuries for this very night. His name was Melric, once a knight of Avaloria, now cursed into half-death for betraying the crown. The return of the sword meant the seal on his prison was weakening, and soon his hunger for revenge would drown Avaloria in darkness. But Elara, unaware of the storm she had unleashed, stumbled back as the sword pulsed with warmth in her hands. The whispers shaped into clearer voices, ancient guardians, speaking all at once, telling her she was now the keeper of dawn, bound to protect Avaloria from the shadows rising again. Her knees trembled, her heart thundered, yet deep inside she felt something awaken her, courage she never knew she carried. The sword was not heavy. It felt like an extension of her own soul. Suddenly, a hawk swooped down from the sky, its feathers gleaming like silver. It circled her 3 times before landing on the oak. From its beak came words, human words. Elara of the village, the path has found you. Go to the crystal spire. Only there will you learn the truth. Elara gasped, but the hawk spread its wings and vanished into the night sky, leaving her trembling and alone, yet filled with purpose. She knew the crystal spire was a mythical tower said to rest on the edge of Avaloria's horizon, where the sea kissed the sky. No one had ever seen it, only sung about it in lullabies. But now it called her as though it had been waiting all along. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, King Alden awoke from a dreamless sleep, drenched in sweat. He had seen visions of a girl wielding a glowing sword. A girl he did not recognize, yet one the ancient prophecies had foretold. His advisors gathered in panic, fearing the rise of the Shadow Knight Melric, and whispers spread through the marble halls that the fate of Avaloria had already begun to shift. Back in her village, Elara tried to hide the sword, but it refused to be hidden. Its glow dimmed only when she slept, yet anyone who came near her could sense the strange aura surrounding her. Rumors gruesome whispered she was blessed, others whispered she was cursed. Even her closest friend, Rowan, a brave but skeptical young man, could not decide what to believe. Yet, when soldiers from the capital suddenly arrived at the village gates, demanding to see the girl with the golden hair, Elara realized her life would never be the same. The captain bowed low, saying, "The king summons you." Avaloria needs its guardian. Her parents wept. Rowan clenched his fists, and Elara herself could barely breathe. But the sword pulsed again, as if to remind her there was no turning back. And so, with the cloak wrapped tight around her shoulders and the sword hidden beneath, Elara stepped onto the path that would lead her to the crystal spire. Unaware of the trials, betrayals, and wonders awaiting her. For in Avaloria, every choice echoed through time, and the story of one girl would soon decide the destiny of them all. Elara walked along the winding forest path, the cloak around her shoulders rustling softly with each step. The sword beneath it seemed almost to hum, vibrating with a power she could barely comprehend. The whispers that had guided her before had grown quieter, replaced by an unsettling silence, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath her boots. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain. She knew the journey to the Crystal Spire would not be every tale of Avaloria's history told of dangers that lay between the villages and the far horizon, where the spire gleamed like a shard of ice under the sun. Hours passed, and shadows deepened. Suddenly, she heard the snap of a twig behind her, heart pounding. She spun around, sword in hand, but there was no one, only the wind weaving through the branches. She laughed nervously at herself, telling herself her imagination was running wild. But a faint glow caught her eye. Between two gnarled trees, a small figure appeared no taller than a child, yet its presence was commanding. It had emerald green skin, bright golden eyes, and a mischievous grin that revealed sharp teeth. Who are you?" Elara asked, her voice trembling slightly. The figure bowed dramatically. "I am Fine, a forest sprite, guardian of the Whispering Woods. I have been waiting for you, Elara of Dawn." "Waiting for me?" she asked, confused. "Yes," Fine replied, twirling mid. "The path to the Crystal Spire is treacherous. Not all who seek it are meant to succeed. You need guidance, unless you wish to be lost forever in the endless thorns." "Endless thorns," Elara shivered. She had heard tales from villagers of impassable brambles and dark spirits that trapped travelers for decades. But now she had no choice. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "I will follow you." Fine clapped his tiny hands in delight. "Good. But first, you must prove your courage. The Sword of Dawn is powerful, but it will test your heart." Suddenly, the air shimmered, and a vision appeared before her eyes, a scene of her village in flames. Rowan screaming for help, her parents trapped under rubble. Her hands shook as the sword in her cloak vibrated violently. "This is what may come," Fine whispered. "You must learn to control the sword, to trust its guidance, or Avaloria will fall before you reach the spire." Elara closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and felt a surge of warmth spread from the sword through her chest. She imagined herself rescuing her family, protecting the village, standing strong. Slowly, the vision faded, replaced by the quiet whispering of the trees. "You have passed the first trial," Fine said. "The sword recognizes your resolve. But remember, the shadows are aware of you now." At that very moment, miles away, Malric, the Shadow Knight, stirred in his dark fortress. His eyes flared as he sensed the awakening of the Sword of Dawn. "So, she has begun her journey," he muttered. "No matter. I will be waiting when she reaches the spire, and when I am done, Avaloria will kneel before me once more, back on the path." Elara and Fine reached a river whose waters glowed with silver light, reflecting the moon above. The current was swift, and the bridge was old and fragile. Fine darted across easily, but Elara hesitated. "The sword will guide you," the sprite encouraged. Elara gripped the hilt and stepped forward. The bridge creaked, threatening to collapse, yet the sword glowed brighter, as if pulling her forward. She reached the other side safely, her legs trembling with adrenaline. Beyond the river, the landscape changed. Rolling hills stretched toward the horizon, dotted with ruins and remnants of forgotten kingdoms. Strange creatures lurked in the shadows, foxes with eyes like burning coals, rabbits with wings, and crows that whispered secrets. Fine warned her to stay alert, and for hours they moved carefully, the sun rising slowly, casting golden rays across the valley. As they approached a particularly dense forest, a sudden roar echoed through the trees. A massive wolf, larger than any normal creature, leapt from the shadows, eyes glowing red. Elara raised her sword instinctively, the glow of its blade illuminating the creature. Fine darted around, shouting instructions. "Aim for its heart. Trust the sword." Elara's hands shook, but as she swung, the wolf paused, sensing the power within her. Then, with a flicker of light from the sword, the creature vanished into a wisp of smoke. "Well done," Fine said, panting from exertion. But this was only a shadowy hint of what Melric can summon. Be prepared for more. Hours turned into days as they continued, each trial more difficult than the last. Elara discovered hidden strengths within herself. She could sense the flow of magic in the land, hear faint whispers guiding her steps, and even see glimpses of the future when she held the sword. She learned to trust Rowan's memory in her heart, the love for her parents, and the hope for Avaloria's future as her compass. But not all was light and wonder. Fine warned her of other travelers, mercenaries, thieves, and cursed beings who would try to seize the sword for themselves. She narrowly escaped a band of shadow thieves one night, hiding beneath a canopy of luminescent flowers that glowed faintly in the dark. She began to understand the prophecy that had been whispered to the king. Avaloria's fate would rest not only on courage, but on compassion, intelligence, and heart. The closer they came to the crystal spire, the heavier the sword felt, pulsing not with light, but with the weight of responsibility. Finally, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet, they reached the base of the spire's legendary hill. The tower's peak shimmered with crystalline light, piercing the clouds above. Elara gazed up in awe, her journey far from over, but her resolve stronger than ever. "Tomorrow," Fine said, "we begin the ascent. But tonight, rest. The challenges of the spire are like none you have faced before." As she lay beneath the stars, sword beside her, Elara realized that she had changed. The village girl who had once feared the forest had become something more, a beacon of hope, a guardian whose story would echo through Avaloria for generations to come. As the first light of dawn touched the hilltop at Elara, and Fine began their ascent of the crystal spire. The tower's walls sparkled like fractured diamonds, reflecting the morning sun in thousands of colors, each more mesmerizing than the last. Every step they took seemed to hum with energy. The very stones beneath her feet thrummed as if alive. Fine hovered close, his voice barely audible over the wind. "Be careful, Elara. The spire tests not only the body, but the mind and the heart." She nodded, gripping the hilt of her sword tightly. The first chamber was unlike anything she had imagined. Walls of crystal rose like trees, branching toward a ceiling lost in mist, their surfaces reflecting countless versions of herself. At first, she saw only one Elara, but as she stepped forward, her reflection multiplied until hundreds of her stared back, some fearful, some smiling, some with eyes blazing with anger. "What is this?" she whispered. Fine floated beside her, his golden eyes serious. "This is the mirror of truth. Each reflection is a possibility, a choice you might make, or have made. But you must recognize which is real and which are shadows meant to deceive." Elara approached slowly, her heart racing. Each reflection seemed to reach out to her, whispering doubts. "You're not strong enough. You'll fail. You don't belong here." Her hands shook, but she held the sword forward. Light radiated from the hilt, and gradually the reflections wavered, some fading into mist, leaving only one. Relief flooded her, but the tower was far from finished. Next, they entered a hall filled with floating platforms over a bottomless void. Each platform was covered in shimmering runes that glowed faintly beneath her feet. Fine warned, one wrong step, and you may fall into the depths of forgotten dreams. Where few return, Elara took a deep breath and began stepping across the platforms, letting her instincts and the sword guide her. The runes shifted beneath her, challenging her balance and courage. At the midpoint, a wind like a roaring storm struck, nearly knocking her off. She closed her eyes, focused on the whispers of the sword, and in a burst of light she landed safely on the next platform. Emerging from the hall, she entered a chamber filled with darkness, so thick it swallowed all light. The air was cold, and she could hear faint, sorrowful voices echoing from every corner. "The Hall of Lost Memories," Fine whispered. "Here you must confront grief, regret, and fear. Only by facing them can you proceed." Shadows coalesced into forms. A small boy resembling Rohan, a woman who looked like her mother, and the fleeting silhouette of a soldier she did not recognize. They reached out, pleading, accusing, demanding. Elara felt a wave of emotion crash over her, threatening to pull her into despair. She gripped the sword, its glow brightening, and whispered, "I cannot stay here. I must protect Avaloria, my family, and my friends." I will not be consumed by shadows. The illusions shivered, twisted, and vanished, leaving the chamber empty but for Elara and Fine. Well done, Fine said softly. Your heart is strong, but the greatest trial awaits at the summit. The climb continued. Each level of the spire testing her in new ways. Puzzles that required both intellect and intuition. Guardians who demanded feats of strength and illusions meant to exploit every fear she had ever known. Hours, perhaps days passed. Time seemed meaningless within the spire. Finally, they reached the summit, a circular platform of translucent crystal overlooking the entire kingdom. The wind whipped around her, carrying whispers from every corner of Avaloria. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it a crystal sphere pulsing with light that seemed alive. Fine floated beside her, awe in his tiny eyes. The sphere of dawn. It holds Avaloria's essence, the magic that sustains the kingdom. You must awaken it. Elara approached carefully, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. As she placed her hands on the sphere, light surged through her, visions of Avaloria, past, present, and possible futures flooding her mind. She saw the kingdom thriving, fields lush and full of life, citizens laughing in the streets. But she also saw ruin, darkness spreading from the coast, and Malric standing over the burning cities. You are the key, the whispers said. Only through courage, wisdom, and compassion can you awaken the true power. Elara took a deep breath, letting the sword guide her, and a beam of pure light erupted from the sphere, shooting into the sky, visible for miles. The kingdom itself seemed to respond. The rivers glowed, forests shimmered, and even distant mountains rumbled in recognition. Yet, far across the land, Malric felt the surge, his anger boiling, realizing the girl had reached the spire. So, the child has awakened the sphere, he hissed. Very well. Then the shadows shall rise sooner than I intended. Back on the summit, Elara felt exhaustion clawing at her body, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. Fine landed lightly on her shoulder. You have done what many could not, Elara. But remember, the spire tests all who enter it. The true trial is yet to come. The confrontation with the Shadow Knight. Elara gazed out at Avaloria below, the sun setting in brilliant streaks of orange and violet. She knew the next steps would define not just her fate, but that of every living being in the kingdom. And yet a calm resolve settled over her. No matter the dangers, the betrayals, or the darkness ahead, she was ready. For she was Elara, keeper of dawn, and Avaloria's hope rested in her hands. The summit of the crystal spire had barely calmed when the air darkened, shadows spiraling upward like smoke from a cursed fire. Elara gripped the sword, its glow steady but vigilant, as a cold wind whispered warnings she could almost understand. Fine hovered nearby, his usually cheerful demeanor gone, replaced with an urgency that tightened around her chest. "He's coming," the sprite said, voice trembling. "Malric knows you are here. Prepare yourself." No sooner had he spoken than a ripple of darkness tore through the sky, coalescing into a towering figure draped in midnight armor, eyes burning with the same coal-like fire Elara had seen before. Malric had arrived. The Shadow Knight's voice echoed across the summit, deep and thunderous. "So the child thinks she can awaken the sphere and defy me. How quaint." Elara raised her sword, the hilt pulsing with warmth, as if affirming her courage. "I won't let you destroy Avaloria," she shouted. Malric laughed, a sound like metal scraping stone, and with a flick of his gauntlet hand, shadows erupted from the spire itself, forming grotesque creatures that lunged toward her. Elara's heart, but she remembered the lessons of the spire, the mirror of truth, the hall of lost memories. The floating runesall had taught her to trust the sword and herself. She swung the blade, each strike sending bursts of light that disintegrated the shadow monsters before they could reach her. The battle raged, shadows clashing with the brilliance of dawn's light, echoing across Avaloria below. Rowan, her friend and unwavering companion in thought, appeared in her mind, urging her forward. She felt strength surge, grounding her amidst the chaos. Fine darted around Malric, distracting the knight with flashes of blinding light. "Focus," he cried. "Strike at his core." Elara's eyes narrowed. She remembered the whisper from the first night, "Chosen child, awaken the dawn." This was the moment the prophecy had meant. She focused, letting the sword guide her. A beam of concentrated light shot from the hilt directly at Malric's chest, and the Shadow Knight staggered, his armor cracking under the radiance. "Impossible," he roared. Darkness poured from him, attempting to smother the summit. But the sphere responded, expanding its glow to envelop Elara. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The mountains, rivers, and forests of Avaloria glowing in unison with the light of the sword and sphere. The sword pulsed with a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, and Elara realized she could command the energy, shaping it, controlling it. She struck again, each swing of the blade slicing through shadow until Malric's form began to falter. Fragments of dark armor falling to the crystalline floor. "You cannot win," he hissed, but his voice was weakening. Elara stepped forward, courage burning, and with a final surge plunged the sword directly into the ground before the sphere. A wave of light erupted, sweeping across the summit and cascading down the mountainside. Shadows screamed and dissolved into nothingness. Malric's eyes, filled with fury and disbelief, widened before his form shattered entirely, leaving only silence in the air. Exhausted but triumphant, Elara sank to her knees. Fine landed beside her, smiling weakly. You did it. You truly are the keeper of dawn. The sphere floated above them, radiant and serene, as if acknowledging her victory. Avaloria itself seemed to breathe in relief, the rivers sparkling brighter, forests swaying gently, and distant mountains basking in the glow of safety. But there was no time to rest. The light revealed another truth: the kingdom had suffered while she fought. Villages in the north had been raided by lingering shadow remnants, and citizens cowered in fear. Elara stood, her resolve hardening. The battle may be over, but Avaloria still needs me. Fine nodded, pointing toward the horizon where a distant city smoldered. There you will find allies, and more challenges. Your journey isn't finished yet. Along the path to the city, Elara encountered those who had heard of her deeds: villagers, scholars, and knights inspired by the tales of a girl who had faced shadows and won. Each offered their loyalty and aid, swelling her confidence, yet reminding her that Avaloria's true test had only begun. That night, as she camped beneath the stars, sword beside her and the sphere's glow faintly illuminating the surroundings, Elara reflected on everything she had learned: courage, wisdom, heart, and trust. She had faced illusions, monsters, and darkness itself. But the most powerful force was never magic, it was belief in herself and the hope for her people. In the days that followed, Elara and her growing band of allies traveled through Avaloria, rebuilding what had been broken, teaching those she met about the importance of light over darkness. Fine remained by her side, offering guidance, humor, and constant reminders of the forest's ancient magic. But even as peace seemed to return, shadows lingered. Far from the crystal spire, dark forces whispered, and new enemies stirred, aware of Elara's growing power. She knew the final confrontation with Avaloria's enemies would require every skill, every ounce of bravery, and the unwavering loyalty of those who believed in her. And yet, as she looked at the horizon, the sun rising over the kingdom she had saved, a sense of calm determination settled within her. She was Elara, the keeper of dawn, and no darkness past, present, or future would extinguish the light she carried within. As dawn broke over Avaloria, the kingdom's people stirred with cautious optimism. News of Elara's triumph over Melric and the awakening of the Sphere of Dawn had spread, carried on the wings of birds, whispers through villages, and the songs of minstrels eager to tell of the young girl who had become a beacon of hope. Yet, even as light bathed the lands, Elara knew the final challenge awaited the heart of Avaloria itself. A place hidden for centuries, where the kingdom's most ancient magic slept, guarded by a test that would challenge everything she had learned. Guided by Fine and the Sword of Dawn, she ventured to the Valley of Echoes, a place said to hold the very soul of Avaloria. The valley was eerily quiet, with mist curling around craggy peaks and rivers reflecting the sky like mirrors. Legends told that only the truly worthy could enter. Others became lost in loops of time, wandering endlessly. As Elara stepped forward, the sword pulsed strongly, vibrating with anticipation. At the valley's center lay an enormous crystal lake, its surface smooth as glass. Fine hovered beside her, eyes shining. The heart of Avaloria lies beneath. To awaken it fully, you must face not only shadows, but your deepest fears, your regrets, and your own doubts. Elara knelt by the water, gazing at her reflection. The sword's glow merged with the moonlight, casting her features in brilliance. Slowly, the water shimmered, forming visions of her past, her parents' loving smiles, Rowan laughing with her, and even the peaceful nights in her village before she knew of destiny. But soon darker memories surfaced, the fear of failure, moments of hesitation, the countless times she had doubted herself. Each doubt manifested as shadows rising from the water, twisting into monstrous forms, whispering, "You are not enough. You will fail." Her heart trembled, but she remembered every lesson of the spire, every trial she had endured. She took a deep breath, gripping the sword of dawn, and declared aloud, "I am enough. I am the keeper of dawn, and Avaloria's light will never fade while I stand." A surge of light erupted from the sword, dissolving the shadow monsters instantly. The lake's surface glowed, revealing a hidden staircase spiraling down into crystalline depths. With Fine beside her, she descended. The chamber beneath was vast, filled with golden light, and at its center lay a massive crystal, pulsing like a heartbeat, the true heart of Avaloria. The sphere she had awakened at the spire now hovered above the heart, connecting with it through a shimmering pillar of light. Elara realized she had been guided not just to awaken the sphere, but to unify it with Avaloria's heart, restoring balance and magic throughout the kingdom. Slowly, deliberately, she placed the Sword of Dawn into a carved slot on the crystal pedestal. The heart resonated with a deep, harmonious hum, and the entire chamber shimmered with brilliant light. Avaloria itself seemed to exhale, magic flowing through rivers, trees, mountains, and even the smallest village. The sword glowed brighter, then merged seamlessly with the heart, embedding Elara's courage and love into the kingdom's very essence. Outside, the citizens watched in awe as Avaloria shimmered under renewed life and magic. Trees grew taller, rivers sparkled clearer, and animals appeared as though celebrating the restoration. Even the winds seemed to hum joyful songs. Elara felt a presence beside her, an apparition of Malric, no longer the Shadow Knight, but a man who had been corrupted by anger and vengeance. His eyes met hers, and for the first time she felt no fear, only understanding. "I was wrong," he whispered. "I let hate consume me. A final beam of light enveloped him, cleansing his shadowed essence. He smiled faintly, then vanished, leaving no trace of darkness behind. Fine hovered, beaming, balance is restored. Avaloria owes you more than words can express. Exhausted yet triumphant, Elara returned to her village, greeted by cheering friends, family, and allies she had inspired. Rowan ran to her side, hugging her tightly, tears in both their eyes. "You did it, Elara," he whispered. "You saved us all." As she looked around, she realized the kingdom had changed forever, just in magic, but in spirit. Avaloria was alive with hope, courage, and unity. The prophecy had been fulfilled, not by destiny alone, but by her choices, bravery, and compassion. From that day forward, Elara was celebrated as the true keeper of dawn. The girl who had faced impossible odds brought light to shadow and reminded every heart in Avaloria that courage and hope could conquer even the darkest of times. And when the sun set that evening, golden across mountains and rivers, it wasn't just the end of a day, but the promise of countless dawns to come, with Elara standing tall as their guiding light.